I'm not sure what's going on, but he seemed to be having a lot of fun, so I respect that. Hi and welcome to another episode of Cheesy Bites. Today we're looking at the CL80 from MIKIT. This purple nurple of a keyboard is one of the weirdest ones yet, but I plead to you to not dismiss this non-hot swappable plank because not everyone wants a 5-pound brass brick on their desk. Sometimes a little lightweight fun is just what the doctor ordered. So say hello to this fun-packed party board, and what a party it is, at least when you look at the strawberry fields displayed at the top here. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm all for it. I mean, they seem to be having a lot of fun, so I respect that. In general, this board is probably like nothing else you've seen, or at least what I've seen. I dig the desaturated purple in combination with the light pink hues. The die-sub PPD caps are a great addition too, but I'm not so sure about this circular concave shape that they have. This is something entirely subjective, though. You might love these, but I had a little difficulty getting used to them. They do look pretty though, and I think they definitely hit the design right on the spot with these. But there are some typical and non-typical inconsistencies. We got the usual slight wobbliness of the die sub caps, that's when the legends are printed on instead of being molded together by two separate pieces. And we have something that I'm pretty sure slipped through QC. You see the 5, dash, right bracket and L cap are a slightly different shade of white than the creamy looking rest. Not sure how well the camera is going to pick this up, but it's a fun little thing to notice, but also something that I hope you're not going to have to witness in case you pick this one up. There are also no extra caps in the box. Usually with these kinds of boards you get a few extra keys depending on whether or not you are using Windows or Mac as your main machine. Instead, we have the respective keys marked with both the operating systems on the modifiers. There's also no mechanical switch to change between the OS. Instead, you can use the function and tab to switch between them. This will be indicated on the left side where the X and minus sign are. This is also the spot to check for Bluetooth connectivity, of which you have 3 profiles to choose from. You can connect up to 3 devices and simply switch between them. 4 actually, because there's also a 2.4 GHz dongle which is attached to the bottom. Yes, remember the recent video about the NuFi R96? Well, NuFi, take note. This is what we want, a neat little magnetized compartment to store our dongle. Just perfect. While we are on the underside of this board, we also get 2 levels of flip-out feet accompanied by rubber textures to keep the party stable. However, I must admit that I've never lifted this thing higher than its default state because this board is really thin. I mean, just look at it. But because of how the switches are mounted, it's not actually thinner to type on than, for example, in one of the Airs. Still, I find it quite comfortable. Otherwise, there's nothing else going on the other side besides the wired and wireless switch, because of course you can operate this with the included color-matched USB-C to A cable. I really like the attention to detail that MIKIT gives to their boards. They aren't just shipping generic cables. In fact, all of them have exactly matching ones. Good ones too. This one isn't braided, but it feels very sturdy. Hopefully it will last a while being plugged in at the solidary USB-C port, which you can find at the top right side of the board here. The underside is also made of metal, which was surprising given that the rest is entirely made of plastic. It's a good weight too. Of course, it's not meant to be heavy, but it feels sturdy enough. The top can sound a bit plasticky though. Speaking of the top, let's get a second look at the design of this thing. One of the more striking parts are these big X and minus signs here. When I first saw them in pictures, I actually thought, well, this is a weirdly unused space to put this giant graphic on. But no, these are not just prints, they are actual buttons. Volume buttons. They are super clicky and, well, they do one thing, adjust the volume. You're likely thinking, well, that's overkill, and you're probably right, but the dress code for this party is fun, and I think they are fun, so don't be a party pooper. Speaking of pooping at parties, it's time for my favorite segment, RGB diarrhea, of which this board has plenty, and because of how the switches are essentially sticking out at the top, the RGB is among the most vibrant and visible. There are a couple of presets to cycle through, and just like with a lot of other boards, you can adjust speed, color, or turn it off entirely. I have to admit though, the way it spreads and diffuses on the surface of the board is a lot better than I would have imagined, but the lack of shine through caps does prevent this from truly becoming a legendary party. And the stabilized caps do have some not so pleasant looking light bleedage. Speaking of the stabilizers, they are pre-looped but a bit inconsistent. Some of them could use some work, but luckily due to the way the board is put together, it can be done really easily by just removing the caps, making this one of the easiest and fastest tune-ups you can do. Normally this would be the moment where I start to take this apart, but I'm actually not going to do this here because I think there's nothing I can really do. I mean, it's so thin and the way the switches are mounted doesn't allow for any modifications, or at least ones that I can think of. So I guess we'll go straight to the sound test. Well, the music at parties is always subjective, unless it's your own party, then it's probably the best soundtrack in the world. Anyhow, I also think the best parties have to come to an end, and with this video I think we're pretty much reached that point. So who's this board for? Well, regular viewers of this channel are probably not going to be super into this, but as I said at the beginning, I think there's definitely a market for these, and I could imagine this being a fun board for the office, something inoffensive that can spice up your day, or similar to how the M65 could be a perfect fit for a specifically themed desk setup, so can this or the pink counterpart, the CL80 Marmalade Edition. One of the things that I really appreciate though is the numerous small things that MIKIT added. For example, just look at the sides here. There are small perforations across the entire width. It's a neat little detail that makes the overall package just a bit more, well, fun. The same goes for the rubber feet. Instead of having generic boring strips, we got individual access following along the rest of the theme. I know nobody will ever look at this. I mean, you're not gonna place this board on its head and bask in the glory that is rubber feet when you're not using them, but once more, I think this is a detail that I really appreciate. MIKIT seems to be really good at this too, they just need to improve their QC a bit. But that's why I think you shouldn't dismiss this. From all the boards I've tried from their catalog, I think this one is the best visually. The M65 felt the most solid, but this one was actually one I specifically asked for because, well, I thought it looked the most fun. So to whomever is watching this, if you're looking for a fun purple themed board, this might be worth considering. And now, please excuse me as I need to go to the grocery store and pick up some strawberries. I've been staring at these for way too long, and now I'm hungry. Thank you so much for watching this, and thanks to MIKIT for letting me into their party. And as usual, I didn't get paid, they didn't see this beforehand, but I do get to keep the keyboard. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Go eat some strawberries, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.